Popcorn? Why? Because they're clowns, that's why. I'm Joe Rethlin with a retro review of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Continuing horror movie month, why not talk about aliens that look like clowns coming down from outer space, wrapping up people in cotton candy cocoons, using popcorn to create weird little puppet creatures, and just, having a big top in the woods and everything, and just wreaking havoc on the town of Crescent Cove. Why not go for a stupid horror comedy that is about killer clowns from outer space? If you were expecting to take this seriously, you've come to the wrong goddamn place, honestly. This was by no means a great movie. The premise isn't deep. It's like 85 minutes. It's about people trying to fight back against killer clowns, that are aliens from outer space. And it's silly. And it's ridiculous. And sometimes that's all you need with a movie like this. There are some quotable lines in this, and it has a nice breezy pace about it. This is obviously trying to capitalize on what Gremlins did a few years before, and it's in that weird glut of horror comedies where they tried to have a little bit more fun with it. This is what Hobgoblins, by the way, would have been if Hobgoblins had a budget and any good acting and any intelligence behind it. And if it hadn't been Hobgoblins, is my point. So, yeah, they're giant, comically oversized clowns that crash land on a comet, to Earth one day. And Mike and Debbie are the two main characters at this makeout point, and they go to investigate. This old man and his bloodhound go to investigate first, and the bloodhound is dispatched, and then, which thankfully off screen, because I don't like seeing animal violence on screen. And the old man is killed and everything, and suddenly, after Mike and Debbie get to this big top in the woods, a circus tent in the woods, it wouldn't immediately raise, about 100 red flags. They go in there and they discover all this, Halloween circusy type stuff and everything, and they see that a bunch of, they've got a bunch of party favor stuff, the cotton candy cocoons that are hanging there almost like punching bags. But they use them to take the blood from them, drink them through a comically clown straw. And why the fuck not? Why wouldn't you use a comically sized clown straw? Because what the fuck not? You're a killer clown from outer space. And there's also popcorn machines and stuff like that. It's a way for these clowns to just come down and kill people. There's really no explanation beyond that. You don't need any other explanation. None of the characters are really particularly that deep. The acting is not that bad. It is over the top because it is a late 80s, horror comedy. But it's meant to be fun. And that's what it is. And also there's these two brothers that have this rented ice cream truck that, has a clown theme and everything. And they approach that makeout point at one point and get chased away. But they factor into the film a little bit later. But, of course you have, the main cop that doesn't believe them until he sees the cop, Mooney, until he sees him for himself. Not like Sean Mooney. Who? And, yes, there's the one, Debbie has an ex-boyfriend that's a cop that doesn't believe him, but then suddenly believes him, and they go out to try and save everybody. And you have to shoot the snoot, not boop the snoot. That's how you kill the clowns, because they have a giant Earth-sized nose on their face. Because, again, killer clowns from outer space. I do love the fact that after they escape, they do the popcorn why, because they're clowns, that's why. And the popcorn actually is a way for these little creatures to get in the house a little bit later and try to attack Debbie. The costumes are ridiculous. There's a lot of 80s hair in this, of course. There's a lot of 80s hair. It does have a decent-sized budget, though. It doesn't necessarily look cheap. Now, it doesn't look huge budget, but it looks like they made the most of what they had. The clowns eventually decide to take the show on the road, basically, and, get people with puppet shows, a pizza, a surprise in a pizza box or whatever. It's like the hole in the popcorn bucket thing, only not nearly as gross, somehow. That's not butter, ladies. That's not butter. And the one thing before Mike can get, Debbie's ex to believe him, I know what I saw, but I can't prove it. My proof is gone. That's a pretty good summary of 2020, actually, to be perfectly honest. None of these clowns have names, or if they do, I don't fucking remember, but one clown, it's like he confronts a motorcycle gang and then punches a guy's head off, literally. Just, it's so fucking hilarious, absolutely fucking ridiculous. The overacting, my fucking god. It's so ridiculous. It's not, but it hits that perfect sweet spot of overacting without overdoing it, if that makes any goddamn sense at all. The clown motif does get worked to death, because of course it does. one clown does shadow puppets for people waiting at a bus stop and does, like an army and, a girl dancing and everything, and then eventually does a T-Rex and eats them and traps them in this bucket. And he traps them conveniently in his hand and puts them in the bucket so we don't see them because they just want to kill people. Here's my question, though. If there were no other inhabitable worlds, who else have they been killing besides us? They just suddenly decide to come to Earth and they're like, hey, we're going to leave and we have no other fucking place to go. So if you dig too much into it, you're going to kind of wonder what the fuck else their plan was. Especially once they were discovered and had a very obvious fucking weakness right there. Actually, going for the nose is kind of a metaphor for the 80s, given all the cocaine that people did. It's the 80s, do a lot of coke and vote for Ronald Reagan. And if you get that line, I love you guys. And the death by cotton candy cocoon, if you peel it away, there's blood and everything because the cotton candy, I guess, it preserves the bodies, but it also eats away at them. It's kind of like House of Wax, House of Wax. And once the old cop is made into a puppet, the one big old cop or one big old clown says use him as a puppet. Don't worry, Dave. All we want to do is kill you. And that's pretty much all the motivation you need when you're a killer clown from outer space. Debbie was in a ball. I always knew she was an airhead, but Jesus Christ, how'd they trap all that 80s hair in there is what I wonder. There was, at one point a guy got killed, death by cream pie. Don't Google that. Don't ask me how I know that. And then, it's like getting blood from a turnip, the comically sized clown straw. Nobody's going to put me in a balloon again, famous last words. There was a door part. It kind of reminded me of the cartoon thing with the wolf doing the stuff with the doors. And then the ice cream truck, everybody saves, and then suddenly this giant, clown thing comes down that apparently controlled the goddamn ship because everybody gets off the ship except the cop, and then he shoots it in the nose, or he bashes it in the nose, which blows him up, blows the ship up, and yet he ends up in the car with the ice cream truck guys, and everybody's fine. And everything's wrapped up in a nice, neat little bow, and who the fuck knows what happens. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously. Killer clowns from outer space. Let me know what you thought of this movie in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.